The Last Train Home. Part 1. The station was silent, except for the occasional creak of the old metal benches and the soft whistle of wind sneaking through broken windows. Lucas sat alone, clutching his suitcase, staring at the rusted tracks that stretched into darkness. The town had been abandoned for years, factories closed, families gone, streets empty. Yet somehow, he had returned, chasing a memory he couldn't shake. He remembered the last train, decades ago, the one that had taken everyone away. His parents had boarded it, waving as the steam swallowed them, leaving a boy of 12 behind with nothing but a promise he would see them again. He had never seen them, never heard from them. The town had been erased from maps, declared unsafe due to environmental contamination, but he remembered every corner, every street, every smell. Now, standing on the platform, Lucas felt a chill crawl up his spine. The ticket counter was empty, windows smashed, papers fluttering like trapped birds in the draft. He tapped his suitcase nervously. Nothing made sense. The train schedule was still posted on the wall, but the dates were decades old, yellowed and curling. The numbers seemed to blur when he looked too long. Suddenly he heard it, the low rumble of metal on tracks. Lucas froze. The sound was too real to be a memory, too immediate to be imagination. He looked down the line. Faint lights appeared in the distance, growing brighter, accompanied by the shrill cry of the train whistle. Heart racing, he stepped closer. The train approached slowly, unnaturally slow, as if aware of his presence. The engines hissed, steam curling into the night, mixing with the mist that had rolled in from the surrounding forest. Each car was intact, though rusted and worn, as if frozen in time. He could see figures inside, blurred and indistinct. Shapes that might have been passengers, or perhaps memories of them. A woman's face appeared pressed to the glass of one carriage, pale, thin, hair dark and unkempt. Lucas froze. He recognized her instantly. His mother. His heart pounded. She smiled faintly, lips barely moving, eyes wide. He ran toward the train, waving his arms, shouting her name. The figures behind her shifted. Faces of people he had once known, neighbors, friends, cousins, all vanished decades ago, stared back at him. The train slowed, screeching to a halt, but the doors didn't open. Lucas pounded on them, desperate. He could hear whispers, faint and sorrowful, echoing from inside the carriages. It's too late. It's always too late. He climbed onto the platform edge, leaning forward, trying to reach her. The wind howled, carrying the metallic scent of the rails, the faint smell of smoke and rust. The train shuddered, and for a moment, the figures leaned toward him, reaching out with pale hands. Lucas felt a pressure on his chest, a wave of vertigo, and stumbled back. The train didn't stop anymore. It began to pull away, slowly, inexorably. His hands gripped the railing, knuckles white. The last thing he saw before it vanished into the mist was his mother's face, smiling, unchanging, fading with the light. The platform was silent again. Lucas sank to the ground, breathless, eyes wet. He had chased the memory of a train that never came back, only to realize some departures are permanent, and some absences never heal. In the distance, the faint echo of the whistle lingered, a haunting reminder that some cities, and some people, are lost forever, swallowed by time, by choice, or by cruel circumstance. The station clock ticked slowly, its hands frozen at midnight. Lucas remained on the platform, gripping his suitcase like a lifeline. The town around him was a shell, boarded-up shops, rusting street lamps, weeds clawing through cracks in the asphalt. He had hoped the train would bring answers, a reunion, closure. Instead, it had left him with nothing but an echo and a hollow ache. He wandered down the empty streets, flashlight cutting through the mist. Every corner held a memory: the bakery where he had bought bread with his father, the playground where he and his sister had laughed, the small church where he had prayed silently while waiting for a miracle. Each place seemed alive and dead at the same time, frozen in the moment of abandonment. A sound made him freeze, faint footsteps, deliberate, approaching from the shadows. Lucas swung the flashlight toward them. Nothing. Then a soft, sorrowful voice whispered, "You shouldn't have come back." His heart raced. "Who's there?" he called out, but only his echo answered. The footsteps continued, circling him, never closer, never farther, always just at the edge of his hearing. He wanted to run, but the streets seemed to stretch endlessly, turning back on themselves. It was as if the town itself was playing with him, mocking his grief. Lucas arrived at the old railway office. The windows were shattered, papers scattered like dead leaves. He pushed the door open. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the faint metallic smell of old machines. On the wall hung a map of the railway network, torn and faded. He traced the lines with his finger, searching for the route that had taken his parents away. A figure appeared behind him, a man, tall and thin, face obscured by shadow. Lucas spun, flashlight trembling in his hands. The man didn't speak, didn't move, only watched. The air grew colder, pressing against Lucas's chest. You knew them?" Lucas stammered. The figure's head tilted slightly, and in a voice barely audible, he said, "They never left." "Not really." Confusion and terror collided in Lucas's mind. He stepped closer. "What do you mean?" "They're gone. I've been searching for decades." The man extended a hand. In it was a small, rusted train token, the kind children used to collect as souvenirs. Lucas recognized it instantly. It had belonged to his sister. He reached out, trembling, and the token slipped through his fingers, vanishing like smoke. Then the ground beneath him shuddered. He looked up. Shadows moved through the broken windows of the railway office, silhouettes of people, frozen in time, trapped in their final moments. He could see the baker reaching for a loaf of bread, a child reaching for a swing, his parents smiling as the train pulled away decades ago. The train had not just taken them, it had taken everyone, freezing them in the moment of departure. Lucas staggered back, heart hammering. The shadows began to whisper all at once, a chorus of lost voices. "We are waiting, waiting, waiting." He clutched his head, trying to block the sound, but it penetrated every thought, every memory. Desperation overtook him. He ran outside, past the crumbling platforms, past the twisted tracks, searching for the familiar streets. But the town had changed again. Every corner led to a dead end, every street looped back to the station. He realized with a sinking certainty, there was no escape. The mist thickened, swirling around him, forming shapes of people he had loved, people he had lost. They didn't speak, didn't move, only stared, waiting for him to accept what he had long resisted. Lucas sank to his knees, tears streaming, realizing that some losses are permanent, some departures never reversed. The last sound he heard before collapsing onto the cold asphalt was the faint whistle of the train, distant, mournful, echoing endlessly through the abandoned town. A train that would never arrive for him, a reunion that would never come, leaving only the crushing truth. Some places hold their dead, and some people remain lost forever. Lucas woke to the cold bite of morning fog curling around his shoulders. He didn't remember falling asleep. The platform was empty again, yet the town felt heavier, as if time itself had thickened overnight. He rose slowly, suitcase in hand, glancing at the tracks. Rusted and silent, but the faint shimmer of heat waves made it appear as though the rails were breathing. He wandered deeper into the abandoned streets, drawn by a compulsion he could not resist. Every building he passed was a monument to absence, doors ajar, shutters swinging in the wind, curtains stiff and faded. Memories clung to him like a second skin. He could hear his mother's laugh in the bakery, his father's voice calling him to dinner, and his sister's footsteps racing across the playground. But every echo ended in silence, a cruel reminder that they had been taken and he had been left behind. At the old town square, Lucas paused. A clock tower, long broken, loomed above. Its hands frozen at the hour of departure, the hour the train had left decades ago. Beneath it, he saw shadows gathering, thin and twisting, forming shapes vaguely human. He tried to speak, but the words died in his throat. The shadows moved closer, circling him like a predator. They didn't touch, didn't speak, but their presence pressed into his mind, filling him with unbearable grief. Lucas fell to his knees, clutching the rails for support. His tears fell silently, each one a memory of the family he had lost, the childhood stolen, the town erased. From the mist emerged a figure, his mother, perfectly preserved in time. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. She held out a hand, beckoning. Lucas reached for it, trembling. As his fingers brushed hers, the figure dissolved into the fog, leaving only cold air and a whisper in his ear. "It's too late." He stumbled backward into the abandoned station. Every room he entered was a tableau of life interrupted, families frozen mid-action, children reaching for toys that would never be touched again, a baker caught in the middle of kneading dough. Lucas realized he was walking through the shadows of lives stolen by time, by the train, by absence itself. The walls seemed to pulse, contracting and expanding, bending in impossible angles. The town was alive, not with people, but with the memories of what had been, and the grief of those left behind. Lucas clutched his suitcase tightly, realizing it was useless. Nothing he carried could undo what had been taken, could bring back the lost souls, could give him the family he had once known. Hours or maybe days passed. Time had no meaning here. He wandered endlessly, each street folding into the next, each building looping back on itself. Exhaustion clawed at him, but the whispers never stopped. Voices of lost children, faint cries of mothers and fathers, the hollow laughter of a town forever paused in tragedy. Finally, he returned to the station platform, the one place that had not changed. The tracks lay silent, as if the train had never existed. But Lucas knew better. He had seen it, felt it. The town had marked him, trapped him in its memory, and in that realization he understood the cruel truth. Some departures are eternal. Some towns hold onto the past like a vice, and some losses never fade. He sank to the platform, tears streaming freely, exhausted beyond measure. The mist wrapped around him, whispering and sighing, carrying fragments of every life lost. And in that endless silence, Lucas whispered to the empty town, "I understand now. I am alone." The town answered with nothing but the hollow echo of a train whistle, faint, mournful, and endlessly repeating, as if the departed were still moving along the tracks, leaving him behind forever. The Lighthouse Keeper. Part 1. The sea had always been restless near the cliffs of Hollow Point, but that night, it seemed almost alive. Alex, the new lighthouse keeper, had arrived just before sunset, his small truck crunching over the gravel path leading to the weather-beaten building. The lighthouse itself loomed above him, paint peeling, glass panes clouded with salt and years of storm. He had taken the job for solitude, to escape the noise of the city, and for the money, modest but enough to cover his debts. Yet from the moment he stepped inside, a feeling of unease settled in his chest, the kind that tightens your throat and makes your stomach churn. The interior smelled of salt and rust, old oil, and the faint trace of something else, something metallic and warm, like blood. He ran his fingers along the cold walls, tracing the grooves and scratches of decades of storms and maintenance. The spiral staircase to the top seemed endless, and as he climbed, he noticed small notches carved into the wood, numbers that didn't make sense, some dates decades old, some recent. At the top, he found the light chamber. Its massive Fresnel lens reflected the dying sun, scattering fractured rainbows across the ceiling. Alex turned the lamp on for a test. It spun slowly, casting long shadows over the cliffside. From below, the waves roared, crashing violently against jagged rocks. He felt a strange rhythm, a pulse almost synchronized with the light's rotation. That night, sleep came fitfully. He heard the wind, of course, and the waves, but beneath it all, a soft tapping echoed through the walls. Metal against stone, regular, deliberate. Alex assumed it was the structure settling, until he realized the sound moved. From the staircase below, the tap traveled upward, circling him, almost following his heartbeat. Curiosity overcame fear. He descended slowly, flashlight cutting through darkness, revealing nothing but empty rooms and peeling wallpaper. Then, at the base of the spiral staircase, he saw it. A small notebook, leather-bound, lying on the dusty floor as if placed there intentionally. He opened it. The pages were filled with entries, dates stretching back decades, detailing observations of the sea, weather patterns, and, strangely, people. Not visitors or ships, but locals. Details about their daily lives, habits, even fears. The most recent entries were yesterday, written in a hand that resembled his own. A cold chill ran through him. He hadn't written anything yet, hadn't even unpacked. His reflection in the window stared back, pale, wide-eyed. The sound of tapping returned, now on the glass, rapid, insistent. He spun toward the light chamber, and for a fleeting moment he thought he saw a figure standing outside, framed by the moonlight. But when he blinked, it was gone. Sleep became impossible. He spent hours pacing, flashlight in hand, notebook clutched tightly. The entries in the book began to shift subtly, words appearing that weren't there before. A single line repeated in shaky handwriting. "Do not turn away. Watch the sea. They will come." The next morning, Alex climbed the stairs to the top again. The horizon was empty, gray waves stretching endlessly, no ships, no birds. Yet when he adjusted the lens, the ocean seemed to ripple unnaturally, shadows moving beneath the surface in patterns that made no sense. Schools of fish, perhaps. Or something else. As the sun dipped into the water, he noticed lights on the horizon, faint, scattered, appearing and disappearing at impossible distances. His instincts screamed that these were not ships. He adjusted the lens, squinting. The lights seemed to follow him, or perhaps the lighthouse, moving in subtle, intelligent arcs, almost like they were circling, observing. Alex felt the notebook in his pocket tremble. The last line of today's entry had changed. "They are patient. And so are we." Night fell fast over Hollow Point, heavier than usual, thick with mist that clung to Alex's clothes and skin. He stayed at the top of the lighthouse, scanning the waves, flashlight off, the Fresnel lens spinning slowly. The lights on the horizon had multiplied, hundreds now, flickering intermittently like distant lanterns. None moved in patterns a ship would follow. The tapping returned. This time, louder, coming from the spiral staircase below. Metal against stone, deliberate, rhythmic. Alex gritted his teeth and descended cautiously, every step echoing in the narrow stairwell. Each notch on the wall seemed closer together, as if counting down, counting him. At the base, the notebook was open again, though he hadn't touched it. The new entry read, "Do not ignore the call. They are here. Watch closely." Alex's pulse quickened. He grabbed the notebook, trying to make sense of it. The handwriting was not only his own, it seemed to anticipate his thoughts, recording fears he hadn't yet voiced. A shiver ran down his spine. The wind picked up outside, howling, slamming the lighthouse doors. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls. Alex noticed something he hadn't before, faint footprints in the dust, leading from the entrance of the lighthouse up toward the spiral staircase. They were too small to belong to an adult, too even to be natural. He climbed again, flashlight in hand. At the top, the ocean had changed. The horizon was no longer flat, dark silhouettes moved beneath the waves, closer than they should have been. The lights flickered, rising above the water as shapes. Boats? No, impossible. They were too dark, too uniform, and their movements too synchronized, like predators circling prey. The whispering started, low, almost imperceptible at first. Then louder, forming words in his mind. "They wait. You see them. You are chosen." Alex spun, but he was alone. Only the wind, the waves, the lighthouse, and the pulsing lights. Yet the feeling of being observed was overpowering, every nerve screaming. He pressed the Fresnel lens into the highest setting, trying to illuminate the horizon, but the shadows seemed to shift, avoiding the light, retreating just beyond reach. Hours passed. Or perhaps minutes. Time had no meaning. He noticed something subtle. The notebook now contained entries predicting his actions. He will reach for the flashlight. He will look at the waves. He will feel the cold. Every action he took had been pre-written. The words blurred and shifted, almost alive. Finally, exhaustion took over. Alex leaned against the railing, staring at the endless dark. The mist thickened, crawling up the lighthouse like smoke. Then he saw it, a small figure standing at the edge of the waves, pale, unmoving. It wasn't moving closer, but the way it reflected the lighthouse beam made his stomach twist. The child? The person? Or something else? He blinked. It was gone. The lights on the horizon pulsed in rhythm with the beam of the lighthouse, almost as if the sea itself had learned to mimic him. And in that moment, Alex understood. The lighthouse was no longer just a beacon. It was a signal for something waiting. The notebook trembled again. The final line written today. They are patient, but we are closer than you think. The night grew colder, biting through Alex's coat, seeping into his bones. He remained at the top of the lighthouse, scanning the horizon where the lights had multiplied, hundreds of flickering shapes, moving impossibly fast beneath the waves. He couldn't tell if they were alive or just shadows, but the feeling of being observed was suffocating. The spiral staircase below creaked. The tapping had returned, louder, closer, echoing through the tower. Alex gripped the railing, flashlight trembling in his hands. He called out, voice raw, "Who's there?" Only the wind answered, carrying a faint whisper through the fog. "Watch. Do not look away." He climbed down slowly, every step careful, the shadows seeming to cling to the walls, stretching unnaturally. At the base, the notebook lay open, pages fluttering as if caught in a breeze that didn't exist. The writing had changed again. "Do not leave. You are the beacon. You are chosen. Watch." Alex's pulse raced. He had not written these words. They appeared as if anticipating his fear. He backed away, eyes darting to the tiny footprints in the dust. They had multiplied, leading from the entrance toward the spiral staircase and disappearing into the shadows. A soft tapping began on the lighthouse glass at the top. He ran up, the beam from the Fresnel lens cutting through the mist. The sea had changed. Shadows moved beneath the waves, rising and sinking in unison, responding to the light. Shapes that were neither boat nor human swirled in patterns too precise to be natural. The whispers came again, louder now, overlapping, forming a chorus in his mind. "You cannot leave. They are patient. They have waited long. You are part of it now." Alex stumbled to the lens, pressing it into its highest setting, trying to illuminate the ocean. The lights flickered, twisting, pulsing in perfect synchronization with the beam. Then he saw them, figures breaking the water's surface briefly, pale, elongated, impossibly still, vanishing as quickly as they appeared. The notebook slipped from his hands, falling to the floor. Pages turned on their own, a single line repeating. "Do not blink. Do not look away. Watch." Time ceased to exist. Minutes stretched into hours. Alex remained at the top, eyes fixed on the horizon, body trembling, mind fraying. Every instinct screamed to leave, but some unseen force held him in place. He realized the lighthouse had claimed him. Not as a prisoner, not as a victim, but as a sentinel. Dawn never came. The fog thickened, the waves roared endlessly, and the flickering lights on the horizon continued their silent, unyielding watch. Alex's reflection in the lens was pale, wide-eyed, mirroring the pages of the notebook. And deep inside, he understood the truth. The lighthouse was not a beacon to guide others. It was a signal, a marker, a call for whatever waited beneath the waves. Alex's hands, trembling and unrelenting, kept the lens spinning. The lights responded, pulsing with his every movement. The whispers continued, endless, patient. "You are the watch. You are the chosen. Do not leave. Do not look away." The sea waited. The horizon pulsed. And Alex watched.